Welcome everyone to another episode of Price Targets with your host Bitcoin Jack. Welcome back. It's Thursday. We're going to be reviewing Bitcoin. We're going to be reviewing Ethereum. We're going to have a little chat on. I'm not really sure what we're going to have a little chat on. This is going to be an interesting episode in the sense that we've seen, scenario A from last week kind of play out here with the bounce, but the bounce itself has not really convinced me yet that that we're in the clear for a bullish rally. We're going to dive into that in a few moments, but first, I want your attention for Prime XBT. They're sponsoring this content. They're making it possible for me to make these videos twice a week. So thank you very much, Prime XBT. And if you sign up using the ref link in the description below and visible in the watermark and use the promo code BitcoinJack, you will get a 50% deposit bonus on your first deposit up to 0.5 BTC. There are some conditions that apply, so make sure you're aware of those, but that's a generous offer from Prime. And I want to just, say thank you again and dive into Bitcoin. All right. So last week we were talking about the three possible scenarios to the downside, considering this was some kind of symmetrical triangle. Price broke out, we were here, and scenario A was a dump into 30 to 32-ish in the weekly demand and then bounce, right? And then I also said, if I remember correctly, that this trend line up here is an important one, and depending on where you draw it, and it's different on every exchange, you could argue that this is not a breakout, but then again, if you grab this one, for example, I think this wick up here, this high was only on Coinbase and not on any other exchanges, then you could argue that this is an actual breakout depending where you draw the line. It's a bit of a complicated arbitrary line, and if you draw it here, then it is again not really a breakout. So complicated. For now, it's a lower high, and not really sure if this is going to be what's going to cause our upside. So the other thing I've been saying, which is why I don't really like trading symmetrical triangles, is that they can morph into other patterns quite easily. So for example, let's say we have the bottom trend line here. It's retesting this diagonal, and again, this is going to be slightly different on every exchange. But let's see. Hold on one second. All right. So this is retesting this line, and then it's retesting the upside. And what could easily happen here is that this right now, for example, this is a running flat. So if I delete this, this was a symmetrical triangle, right? So trend line up here. But maybe it is not a symmetrical triangle, and this was just, some kind of, I don't know, this could be some kind of truncated fifth wave. Let's see, I need to zoom out a little bit. So let's say, yeah. So for example, let's say this is wave A, wave 2. So wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. This is a sideways correction pretty much, or at least it's not as steep. This is super steep, so this could be a 5. And then what you could have is A, B, C. And that's kind of, the tricky thing about symmetrical triangles. Usually they kind of morph into something else. Sometimes they're pretty clean. Sometimes I do like to trade them. In this case, it's slightly more complicated. So maybe this entire portion is not part of the corrective structure. So then this thing here is the corrective structure. And then there is still downside to be had. Something else that could have happened here is that we kind of had like a A, B, C, D, E, and then a super small fifth wave up here. And then this is going to come down here and maybe break resistance afterwards, and then this is a first wave. So it's still pretty ambiguous to me. Let's just say that we're still stuck in the range, and nothing here gives me the idea that momentum will arise to the upside from this. I do want to, ideally I would see something and just trade it, because obviously we'll like bullish Bitcoin. I'm just unsure here. This could come down again here, then go sideways, then form upside, or this could literally still become scenario B or scenario C from last week. For now, it's resistance. I have another chart here. I'm going to be explaining what we're seeing here. I'm going to show you guys a little trick where these lines come from. First of all, let's focus on the dotted lines here and the channel up here. I'm not going to be very exact in the drawing here, but just to give you an idea how I kind of like to look at these structures, I kind of do like to draw the upper line. And there's quite a few that we can draw, but let's say this is the first one. Obviously, we can draw another one like this, slightly different, and then we can do the same on the bottom. I'm not going to give you the exact way, but you can play around with this and find out for yourself. You can draw a few here. We can say something like this. Good. Do a couple of combinations, and then what you'll see is we have these intersections here, 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 and here. Now let's get rid of that one, and let's get rid of this one, for example, and just take these upper two, right? Then we can measure, if we don't change the scale here, we can look at the angle of this one, which is 20, minus 20. And then we can look at the angle here, which is 25. If we add 25 to 20, we have 45. If we divide 45, we have 22.5. So what we can do then is put a line here on the intersection, measure 25 minus 22.5, which is 2.5. We can put this at 2 or 3. And then we extend the left side, which then creates a line of resistance that is related to this specific triangle, right? And now I've picked the two that I find most interesting, that of the combinations that are made, which are the few dotted ones here. And then obviously there is one here that you can't really see. It's not here, but I made it kind of like a zone, and that's based off, because it corresponded to this, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. In my opinion, price above here is bullish, and for now it's at resistance with a lower high. So if it does come back down here, it's probably, going to test this once more and then just die a slow death. Although I do think that if it's going to go there, I do think it's going to be the final move of the trend down. And then the other option is that this spike that we just seen is the start of the relief rally. So essentially, then we've had a full. Essentially, then I guess that this was the full move down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're gonna get an A, B, C up here into another correction, probably not as low as here, but probably into this support resistance in gray. Okay, and then just follow that for the rest of the summer between that range, and then hopefully by, I don't know, September, have a breakout continuation to the upside. So that's kind of it on Bitcoin. I'm still very, very wary to get merging long, and I think this is a great spot up here to hedge a little bit and see what's going to happen next. I've been in cash for a while now, so I don't know whether I want to trade this or just spend my time differently until this really shows me that it's going to develop some momentum, and that's kind of usually the moment where you just make more cash in a shorter period of time. So that's that. ETH had a pretty... Let's get rid of a bit of the junk here. Talked about ETH that we didn't really, I wasn't ready to short it, nor was I ready to go long on it. Still waiting for the levels down here to be retested. Kind of looks that we're heading that way. So let's wait and see what's going to happen here. I think the invalidation will, occur once we kind of retest this low. But if we get here, this is kind of like a deviation on the range. So if we have to draw a range, that would probably, this would be our current range. And then I want to buy at the bottom of the range into the range high. And particularly, I think you gotta be, once this bounces, it comes here and it does bounce, I would be careful and not, aim for the absolute high of that range, but more towards this black line that's here and here, because this could be a deviation on that kind of range. So ideally, we get down here and we come back up here. Invalidation would be here, and that's the play I want to try and see if we can get it. So patience, set alerts, and then find some low time frame setup around these lows of the range. I think that's it. Could have a little look at Litecoin. This is our old chart. The resistance in orange held. Should just break down. If I were to maybe slightly get bullish, it'd probably be at orange here. This just looks as if it's going to come down. Maybe it's not going to sweep this low here, but that's definitely a spot where getting along in would probably be a play into red again. All right, and then I think if it just if it just dumps below here, just get out and I don't know, just don't even pay attention anymore. I hope that makes sense. Let's delete this line, old lines, and then hopefully we kind of get the obvious setup on Bitcoin, because I still don't see the obvious setup. This could be bullish, this could really be bullish, but it's just lower high, lower high, lower high. We have this rally off some positive news after running this low and this low. So some reaction was logical. It was a rather big reaction to it, but yet again it's still resistance. I didn't play the long side here. I'm not going to play it here. I'm not going to play the short side. I'm just going to stay sidelined and see what's happening in the remainder of this week into next week. And then hopefully, at some point it's going to get up. It's going to become obvious. And in the meantime, I'm going to be just keeping an eye on the market, try and do other things, catch up with friends, and kind of feel normal and human again. It's been a while. It's been really good. The weather has been really great. So hopefully that all makes sense, and I hope you're not disappointed with me not giving you any particular setups regarding to Bitcoin, but I'm just, cautious. I remain cautious. This is not yet anything bullish. And then hopefully, if it turns bullish, we're going to be able to see it. And if it's going to come down further, hopefully when it does and the time is right, it will be obvious to us to long it. All right, 15 minutes in. I want to thank Prime. Again, if you like this content, consider using my ref link in the description below to sign up with Prime. And I hope to see you on Sunday. Peace.